Jerry Rust is on the line from Lane County, former Lane County Commissioner, and he'd like to be a Lane County Commissioner again. Commissioner Rust, welcome back to the program.
Hey, Lars, it's good to hear your voice again, and it's good to be on the flagship station down here, KKNW. 1120
is a powerhouse down there. First Amendment free speech throughout Lane County, no matter what the people in the People's Republic would say about it, right?
Yes, and we're tied together down here with our timber economy. We're in hard times down here, Lars. We need to make some changes and get going again.
Do you think people would find it surprising that I'm a Republican and you're a Democrat and we get along all right?
Boy, we get right together right in the middle on the main things. You know, I went into the Safeway the other day and a guy said, "What are you standing for?" I said, "Jobs and a balanced budget," and he said, "Forget about the balanced budget. Just give us jobs."
Oh, but I think you got to get that balanced budget. You and I both know that these governments have been spending us into the poorhouse, Jerry. I mean, look at this. Actually, Bloomberg came out with a report today. I think it was one of the major rating services, Moody's or one of those, predicting municipal bond defaults around America, meaning local governments, cities and counties and states that have borrowed and borrowed and borrowed till they can't borrow anymore are looking at defaulting on those loans. And when they do, there ain't going to be no stimulus package to bail them out.
Well, I hope the cities can take a cue from the counties, because the state is to the poorhouse. The counties are going right behind them. The cities still have more discretionary income. But this is hard time to live within our means. We can't tax our way up.
Hey, Jerry, I don't know what's happening down there. It sounds like we keep getting a beep off your phone, but I wanted people not to be irritated. Can you figure out what that is?
Well, maybe it's somebody bugging us, Lars.
No, it could be the government, right?
Hey, anyway, let's have a hiring freeze. Let's get some early retirements and salary tests and health co-pays. We can actually cut our way out of this thing. We haven't got any other choice. We have to slim down.
By the way, Jerry, this is why you and I get along, because you're kind of an old-school Democrat. You're one of those hodad Democrats. Maybe that's what you call yourself, if anybody remembers what a hodad is.
There's still a lot of them down here. Retired, still doing pretty good. But, you know, I planted 500,000 trees, a lot of them out there in this county, and I'm looking at those trees right now, and they need thinning. They actually, most of them grew, and they're too thick. They need to be cut down. Half of them need to go out of there. Hopefully there's a market for them when we get out there to do it.
Well, how about you cut down those, do that pre-commercial thinning and turn it over to Aaron Jones, one of those evil capitalist Republican types, and let him burn him in that new burner and make electricity out of it.
Well, I'm told that's going to be the cleanest cogen plant in North America. I think we need to look at that. We need to look at that as a model and see how it goes.
Well, you know my friend Harry Merlo, who's with Louisiana Pacific for all those years, he talked to folks out in Enterprise on the eastern side of the state into converting their local school to burn on wood chips. They not only saved about $150,000 a year, which let them hire some more teachers, but they also, believe it or not, I like teachers, but they also quit buying all that oil from those lousy, dirty sons of guns at OPEC.
Listen, it's a renewable resource, and our timber is so vast and so great out here. There's plenty of it that can be standing, and there's plenty of it that can come down and be utilized by people.
You know what's funny, Jerry, is that it was a Republican who emailed me and said, listen, you got to get Jerry Rust on the program. He said he's now running for Lane County Commissioner. This time he seeks position 1, Western Lane. I realize you might find it strange that a fiscal conservative Republican is contacting you about a Democrat, meaning you, Jerry. The position is non-partisan. I believe Jerry is the right fit for the job because of his experience from the loss of logging revenue to the spotted owl debacle. I asked him when he called me why he was contacting a conservative to help with his campaign, and he told me the county's in deep trouble and conservative approaches to finance are the only solution. No new taxes, controlled spending. Listen, that's the kind of thing we could get on board with.
I tell you, I really admire that guy a lot, Jim Peterson. He's an old tree planter, too. In fact, he planted 1 million trees in his time. So I take my hat off to him. But, no, we both went into the Lane County Budget Committee and talked to them and tried to talk sense in them. We want, and we still want, them to do a hiring freeze, do position control, get early retirement, and save money because the wolf is at the door. I hope that Congress gets something in meantime, we need to be about cutting our budgets and getting ready for this. Next 2 years is going to be real hard, Lars.
I'm talking to Jerry Rust, who's running again for Lane County Commissioner. You're going to be one of the only, if you're elected, how many other officials have held an office in the 70s and held it again in the 2000s?
My golly, I don't know. I haven't stopped to take stock, but I have ran into a few. Now, there's a Doug Robertson down there in Douglas County doing a heck of a job for them. And down in Josephine County, he's out of the commissioner's job, but he's trying to manage the O&C county. And these counties are tied together down here with this O&C budgets, and counties like Coos and Josephine, Douglas and Lane and Lynn, we're going to have some rough times up ahead.
Hey, let me ask you something about cutting. Would you be willing to cut more trees? Because, Jerry, you know, in the day when you were planting trees, an awful lot of the logging was done on public lands. These public lands have not been harvested much at all in the last couple of decades, and we've severely undercut. We could be cutting sustained yield, but instead, between the congressional delegation, you know, and the state's position, the state essentially says, we don't want to cut trees on public lands, but we want the paycheck from the federal government for Oregon's timber-dependent counties. Would you be in favor of increasing, going back to cutting sensibly on public lands?
Well, absolutely. There is a sweet spot, Lars. It's got to be higher than the Clinton plan called for. And obviously that whopper didn't fly either. But somewhere in there's a sweet spot, and there's a lot of trees to be cut. And let's just hope that we get a housing turnaround so that we actually have a market for those trees when the time comes. I'm afraid we're going to lose a lot of installed capacity, and people are just hanging on down here in some of these little mill towns. There's still some capacity, but we've got to go back and learn how to cut more trees out of our national forest and out of the O&C land. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, most of these, if you want to get an old growth or mimic old growth conditions, you've got to take a lot of trees out to mimic those conditions. In the end, the Sayuslo National Forest tells me that they're going to have about 10 trees per acre in some of these stands after they thin them a couple of times in order to get the bigger trees, you know. And that's another point. I think that because we grow the highest, tallest, and fastest conifers in the world right here, we can not only harvest them, but we can also grow for long-term and get some credit for carbon sequestration. That shouldn't be off the table either.
See, now you see, Jerry, I think there are people out there who think it's impossible for me to say I'd be in favor of a Democrat. But I'll tell you what, I'm sure there are things that you and I would disagree on, but on an awful lot of things, and especially getting people back to work, limiting the growth of government, cutting down on taxes, and cutting some more trees, we can agree on that. Where's your website if people want to help you become a Lane County Commissioner again?
Well, it's www.jerryrust.com.
And that's Jerry with a J, JERRYRUST.com.
Yeah, and I've been having a lot of fun on YouTube lately, so look me up there. In fact, I addressed the Republicans about 2 weeks ago. I had a great time with them.
Now, what'd you tell the Republicans?
Pardon?
What'd you tell the Republicans?
Same thing I just told you. It's the same message to everybody. It's hard times. Let's live within our means. We need a hiring freeze, early retirement, or, higher paid employees. I'm willing to take a pay cut when I get in there, just like I did when Archie Weinstein and I were in there. The first motion I made was to roll back commissioner salary. So, there's things that we can do there. And then the jobs, we didn't talk a lot about it in the forest, agriculture. We got the wineries in my district, wine tourism, and I'd like to get more broadband out there because a lot of people like to work out of their homes. And
well, let's get the broadband. By the way, Jerry, we were just quizzing somebody today because Clackamas County just took almost $8 million to extend broadband around Clackamas County, and I called up the guy in charge and said, Why isn't this just being done by private companies? I think the private companies out there, some of whom I have business ties with, but the fact is, the private companies are doing a good job of putting broadband any place that there's a demand for it. Why does the federal taxpayer have to pay to do that?
That's right. If there's a market, it will go out there. And the government does have a little role to play in mapping it and nudging it and helping it out. But, there has to be a service provider to do that. I just got broadband at my place. I live on the Siuslaw River down out of Mapleton. And you know how I got it? I couldn't get it by the satellite, and it was awful slow on the telephone, of course.
Yeah.
Got it by radio waves, shot up the river from house to house.
Are you living down in the old Stamper house down there?
Hey, Lars, it's so good to talk to you.
Good talking to you too, Jerry. Good luck to you.
Like another chance before this election in November.
We'll get you on. Jerry Rust with us, 13 before the hour. Back in just a moment. You're listening to the Lars Larson Show.
News Radio 1120 KPN.
Brilliant, buddy.